Hello there, it's Jan here from JB Crafts, and I'm back today with my sketch challenge. So it's the beginning of the new month. I have been doing these on the 1st of the month, I must admit, so I am a day late today because it's the 2nd of November. But this one ticked a box for my Saturday upload. So we're going to go and have a look. And I've created the sketch here, and I'll show you what I've made doing this. So it was another simple layout for you to follow that can be adapted to any theme. So the idea of as a sketch is that it gives you a base sort of idea to work with. So we've got our traditional card with the mats and layers. I've got an extra layer in the center here, and I'll show you what I've done with my version of the sketch. And then I've actually chosen leaves for this because I've done an autumnal sort of card today. But this could be anything. It's just 4 embellishments. It could be 4 hearts, for example. It could be 4 flowers. It could be 4 buttons. You know, it doesn't have to be the leaves. So just think of the 4 embellishments down the side. And then I've chosen to put a sentiment here with my little bow. So I'll show you what I've made. This is actually my design for today using that sketch. So I always make the sketches true size, so you can see that this fits right over the top of there. And it is a little bit of an odd size today, I must admit, because I started with the frame and worked backwards, but it could easily be adapted, you know, to a standard size card. So I've got my craft card today for the actual card blank, and it measures 6 3/4 by 5 3/4. So yeah, not quite 7 inches tall, and a little bit wider than the standard 7 by 5. So yeah, I would probably make an envelope to put this one in. So yeah, that's my card blank. I've chosen several matte layers behind it today. I started out with my pattern paper and then went for the copper layer behind it, and just felt that it needed a bit of a lift, so I actually brought in the brown. So even though there's only 1 layer on here, there's nothing to stop you creating several layers. And again, I'll go through all the measurements for these and where I've got the bits from. And then my inner rectangle here, I've chosen to do as a frame. Now this could just be another solid mat. You know, it doesn't have to be. It could be an embossed panel in there. You could cut that mat and emboss it. So again, you know, lots of different versions. This is just simply a starting point. And then you can see I've got my 4 leaf embellishments here, and then I just felt as if it needed filling in a little bit, so I've actually added some little tiny leaves just scattered amongst those. But I've got that 4 main embellishments down the left hand side here. And then I'd got some of these coloured up from another project, and I just thought, you know, he lends himself to just being sat nestled in all those sort of autumn leaves. And I've just got a little fox there, and again I'll show you where all these have come from. Done my sentiment on the oval. I've got a die cut bow. This could be twine, you know, it could be ribbon, absolutely anything. And then of course that little scattering of pearls in there, just picking out the colours that I've used. So very, very straightforward, using some older dies, the leaf dies I've had for a very long time, and using nesting dies to create the frame. So I'll show you how I've actually done it. So I'm going to pop the sketch just to one side so that we can see where we're going. Pop the card up there out of the way, and then I'll bring in those mats and layers and we'll get those stuck together. So like I said, my card blank has been cut from a piece of A4 craft card. So it measured 11.5 by 6 3/4, and I've just scored it straight down the center at 5 3/4 to create my card blank there. And then I've just secured that fold with my bone folder in place there. And then I've got a couple of matte layers. So this one's actually some Centura pearl in that lovely copper, which was perfect for the autumn colours. And this one measures 6 3/8 by 5 3/8. So we'll get these stuck together to be drying, and then I'll show you the products where I've got my embellishments and things from. So just free that glue applicator up there. And I'm just going to use my all-purpose glue for these. Always when it's just cardstock to cardstock, we go with the all-purpose. So this one's just going to nestle slightly on there and leave a border all the way around the edge. So I wanted that craft card showing. And then when I planned this originally, I was going to go straight to the pattern paper, but then realised that actually I wanted something. I'd gone sort of this far and I thought, I want something to just lift it away from that background. So what I did was actually bring in some brown card, and it is just a tiny, tiny little skinny border there, but it's enough to allow it to stand out from that background there. Now, I did take the centre out of this one. I didn't take the centre out of the background. I have a lot of this coloured cardstock, so it depends, you know, where I'm at, what quality of card it is, and whether I need to save it. I did cut the centre out of here because this one's always good for, you know, die cutting and things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach these two together. But just before I do that, I want to bring in a little bit of inking on that pattern paper. So I'm just going to grab my craft mat there from the side of me, just to protect the surface. And again, I'm going to bring in that vintage photo. It's never far away from me, this one. It is the ink. You can use the oxide. And all I'm going to do is use my sponge applicator here and just work my way round the edge of here, just to sort of bring in that edge. I think it just sort of finishes off the card. It makes it look as if it's intended to be, rather than it being cut from a larger piece, which this one was. I'll show you the paper pad that I've got this. It was actually a 6x6 piece. There was a 12x12. It's a very, very old paper pad. So yeah, just round the edge like that, just to give it that little bit of dimension. I think I put the paper pad away actually. It was a really old one from Crafters Companion called Rustic Wedding. And you know, any of you that have followed Crafters for a while will know what I mean. You know, it is years old, but it had those leaves on, and it was what I wanted for my design. So what we're going to do is now stick this one on top of the black. But you can just see how that inking has brought everything and focused into that centre of that panel. So again, I am just going to pop some glue around the edge, just remembering that I've taken the centre out of my brown card. I don't want to put glue all over this yet, otherwise I'm going to end up stuck to the desk. So yeah, I'm just going to drop this one on top of here. And then, as I say, the beauty of the wet glue is that you can just wriggle everything into place, just eyeball those borders and make sure that everything is nice and straight. And then I'm going to give it a press around those edges. Now I'm going to leave those two to dry for a second, and then we'll adhere this one on top of here. But just handling it while it's wet, I'll find that the paper does move around a little bit. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that one to dry for a second, and I'll talk you through the frame that I created. The other paper pad that I used, again, was another really old one from Crafters called Autumn Morning. So I've actually used one of the darker sheets out of here. I don't know how many there were of it. Let me just have a little look and see if I've still got another one. I pulled two out of here to create my frames with. It was this one. I wanted that wood grain kind of effect. So I've actually cut my frame out of that, and I'll show you this is what I've ended up with here. So you can see, again, I've used that decal edge this time, or the torn edge, and these are just my nesting dies, torn edge rectangles here, and I've taken two of them. So I've taken the largest one and then skipped one and then the third one, and all I did was actually stick them together, and you can see where I've cut this out just to create my frame there. Really, really pretty. I like that sort of torn decal edge on this one. Again, with it being autumnal, it just sort of lent itself to that. You know, the edge of the leaves are always crinkly. And then I cut it again in craft card, some of the scrap craft card, just to strengthen it a little bit. Stuck them together, and then I've inked again all the way around the edge just to bring it all together and get rid of the white edge off the paper. And then I've added a layer of just 1mm foam tape just to raise this one slightly off the edge of the page. So what we're going to do then, now that one's had a couple of seconds to dry, we're going to add our glue around this panel. And this time I can go across the middle because I've got that filled in now. And then this one's just going to nestle on top of the copper there. And again, just leave a little border all the way around there. And there's not sufficient card. Some people say, oh, I don't like taking the middles out because it dips underneath. There isn't enough of a gap for it to be a problem. Plus I'm going to put stuff on top of here and the embellishments. It's not enough of a problem that I'm worried about that space being missing. I can feel it here when I'm pressing the glue down, but it's not going to interfere with the card. It takes away a little bit of the bulk and the weight, and as I say, it gives you, you know, the panels left to die cut sentiments or anything like that out of it. Okie doke. So then we're going to pop this one on top, and I'm just going to remove the backing of my double-sided adhesive here, and this sticks to 1mm. I only buy the 1mm because then I can actually, if I want it a little bit deeper, I just double up on the tape rather than having lots of different ones lying around. If I wanted this to stand off the card, I would just run another layer of tape on top of the one that I've already put down. But just wanted a little bit, just a hint there. And originally I was going to go very central with this, but then in the end I actually decided to go, I'm just going to lift this up so that I can see, just to that top left corner a little bit, so that it was just offset. So we've got a little wider border here than we have at this side. And then once you're happy with that, we can give that a nice stick down. So you can see so far we've got that background for the card, we've got our matte layer, we've got our rectangle here, and then we can start on the actual embellishments. So I'm just going to put the top on my glue there. Now, embellishments wise, again, these are really old dies. I went through my stash. I have them sort of filed in themes. So I went through sort of autumn, and I've got all the leaves together. So this is a Hello Autumn range. This was a Nature's Garden collection from Crafter's Companion, and I love the style of the leaves here. And then when I'd cut these and worked with the 4 elements up the side, like I said, I just wanted some little ones. So again, this goes back to the autumn morning, and I'd got these little extra leaves in there. So let's have a look what we've done with these then. I've cut these ready. We can see I've gone for those autumnal colours. We've got one still green, then into the orange, and then I've got that sort of neutral shade and some brown there. So we've got plenty to go at. And these are a 2-piece set, so you can cut out the background, and then the veins I've done in some of this is the copper pearl that was left over from the background, and some of it is actually some mirror card in that coppery colour. So I just thought they were really nice, and what we're going to do is we're just going to stagger these across that edge there like so, and you can see that that creates that set of embellishments that we've got down there. And like I said, it doesn't have to be autumnal. I can imagine this done with hearts. I could imagine it done with florals. As I say, it can be buttons. It doesn't have to be, you know, an actual die cut. It could be stamped images, however you want to interpret. And then all I did was cut a stash of the little leaves from here. So I've got the bigger one, and I've used the same cardstock as what I was using. Just went through my scraps. You can see here, I'll just lay some of these out. I've got a couple of that size. I chose this sort of frondy one here, and then I've got some of the little tiny ones to go in there as well. I have got some extras, but I'm going to save those for a minute. Okay, so let's have a look at positioning these and getting these in place. So some of them are flat, and some of them I've already put foam pads on the back where I know I want to secure them. And then these ones I have just sort of curled the edges of the leaves so that they look a little bit more realistic than laid flat. So the ones with the points on, I've just curled them forwards, and I've been round all the edges of these again with that distressing just to tone everything in together. These ones I've just curved a little bit just to give them a bit of dimension rather than just being laid flat. Okie dokes. So I'm going to stick these ones down first with the aid of my, of the acrylic glue, which I use for all my embellishments here. So we've got that at the ready. We've got our extras at the ready, and I'm going to follow the pattern that I did on the original one. So we're going to start off up at the top, and I just want to take the backers off here. and I am going to add a little tiny bit of my acrylic glue here, just to the back of here, and then also where it's going to go across the frame, I'm going to put a little bit of that glue to catch it here. So the first one's going to go right off the top edge of the frame, like so. So the foam pad's under this bit that comes into the frame because this one was raised, and then that glue's going to catch that background. And I'm going to go with this one. So again, I've put a couple of pads underneath the bit that's going to go into the frame. And again, we're going to go onto the edge of that frame. So I'm going to pop a couple of bits of glue on there and some on this one that's going to catch this edge here. And I'm just going to overlap them slightly. So I think we're going to go into there so that I've got that space to add some of the little extras. This one's going to come in at the bottom here like so. So I'm going to position that one, and then we can slot this one underneath. So again, I've just had a look where I need the leaves raised, where the petals, the edges of the leaves are going to hit that bottom bit there. And this one, I want a bit of glue on the outside edge just to catch that frame again. So this one's going to sort of slant the same way, and I'm just going to bring it slightly over into the frame like so. And I can always sort of just tweak these little edges once we've got everything in place. And then the last one, again, this one's going to go, and the base of it is going to go over the frame this time. So I'm going to add glue here and on those. And what we're going to do with this one is just tuck it underneath here into the gap. So they're sort of all cascading down the edge of my design there. And everything is sort of secure. And then, as I say, you can tweak these once you've got them in, just lift them that little bit. And then, as I say, I decided I just wanted to fill in some of the extra bits. So as I say, I'm going to follow the design that I did, just use little tiny dabs of the acrylic glue there, and just add some interest. So again, I'm going to put one upon the frame, and then I'm going to put one, oops, and I've just cut these, as I say, using scraps of the card that I'd already got out and little scraps from my box. So we're going to put these at the top. I'm going to go and slot this one in the gap at the side. And I just find that this glue's perfect for this kind of job here. So this one I'm going to slot, let me just grab it at the top, in here in the gap, and add a bit of green up at the top there. And then I've got some slightly darker brown than what I did this one. Again, keeping all those tones very, very similar. And I'm going to pop this one in the gap just here. And again, you can just lift the edges of these to tuck them underneath. That slightly larger one in the peach there. So, you know, however you decide to do this, whatever your theme, because I know a lot of you have had a go at the sketch challenges, just let me know, you know, pop it onto the Facebook page, and I will try my best to pop over there and check them all out. And then I've got one of those lovely little rose gold mirror card ones that I cut the veins from. I just thought that would be nice to add in an extra there. So we're going to pop, that one's going to go in the gap there. Again, just lifting those edges so that I can pop them in between. And then I've got a couple of those little tiny ones in that sort of almost red burgundy tone there. And these are just going to finish off. One at the bottom. And then one just in here, just to add a little bit of that extra. So we've got 1, 2, 3 of that colour. Now I have got some extras in here. I do seem to be missing one actually because it's evaded me, but not to worry. So you can see we've got our embellishments going now from here. And then I chose the oval for the sentiment, and I've just stamped Autumn Blessings. That was from that same collection. And again, I have got foam pads on the half of it that is going to go into the frame here. And then I want a little bit of glue on this side to stick it to the frame. So I'm going to have this one just overhang slightly into here. Just need to make sure I've got room for my little foxy to go at the bottom here. Yep. So about there. Got a little bit of glue popping out there, but it does dry clear, so I'm not too worried about that. And then again, as I say, these were some that I'd done for a previous project, previous card, and they didn't get used. And I thought, you know what, they are just going to fit in there perfectly to add to that sort of scene. And I'm going to run glue just across the base there because he's going to fit. And again, I'm just going to tuck him into that little gap there on the bottom. Okay, now I actually put a die cut bow on this one, but just to show you an alternative there, I'm just going to create a bow with some twine this time. So I've just got a little bit of neutral coloured twine, and again, you know, we can just tie the bow in there. You could add a charm to this if you wished. Just pop that to the right size. In fact, I've gone way too far up there. I don't like wasting, even though I've got tons of supplies, I don't like wasting anything unnecessary. So again, just tweak that to the size that I want it to be, and then get that bow in place. That's about right. And then I can trim those edges off there. And this time we're going to pop the little cream bow underneath here. So again, I'm just going to put, in fact, I might get a glue dot to secure that one instead of the wet glue. So just to add a little glue dot there. And what I tend to do is just take them off with my craft pick and roll them up into sort of a little ball of glue. And then that can go under the back of the bow there. And then this one can come on the edge. So again, you know, you don't have to use the die cuts if you don't have them. We can have that on there. Now I have got a few little leaves left. I'm going to use some of them on the inside, and then I had one on here, so I'll use the little orange one here. It was actually a mirror card one on the panel, but that one seems to have evaded me. So all I am going to do is add just an extra one in the little gap here, just to link it all together. And that's pretty much the front of the design done. And then in past tutorials, there's been quite a few people commented about the insides of the card, and I always put an insert in my card. There wasn't in this one because I've saved it to do on camera for you, because so several of you have expressed an interest in seeing that thought process. It's sort of, where do you go from there? So usually I have some kind of stamped sentiment in mine. I often use scraps of leftovers to decorate the inside or link it together. So the little leaves that are left over here, we're going to use on the inside just to link it together. So I'm just going to pop that one to one side, and I have got a piece here. Let me just have a little look. I think this one was 5 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I've gone for cream cardstock, and we're going to pop this one on the inside like so. So the first thing I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment in there, and I've just chosen one that sort of went along with the theme. So if I pop this in here and secure it with the magnet, I've gone for one that says "You are a blessing to me," because we had the autumn blessings on the front. So I tend to go not quite central, I tend to go a little bit higher than centre, so that I've got room to write a message at the bottom here, because at the top you're often just writing who your project, your card is to. And then I'm just going to eyeball this sort of centered-ish on that piece of cardstock. Just check that we're running reasonably straight, yep, and pick that up with the Misty Door there. And then I'm going to use some brown ink, which is what I use to stamp my sentiment on the front, just because we've gone with all the browns and the oranges and the peach tones for the autumn. I'm going to pop that across and give that a good press on here, and I am going to ink it up a couple of times just to get that depth of brown. So you can see it's stamped out fine, but if I just add another layer in there, it's going to just build up that saturation a little bit and give us a nice finish on there. So again, just straight over the top. Beauty of having those stamping platforms, allow you to just stamp a second time, and you can see we've got a much better saturation now. So again, my alcohol proof inks are water based, so this just cleans straight off and the stamp just gets a little wipe, and then that will go back in its packet in due course. And just leave it there for now. Now the second thing that I'm going to do, and there'll be no surprise here, is to ink the edges of this with that vintage photo. So again, I'm just going to use what's on the applicator for now rather than re-inking, and I'm going to bring this just to soften that edge a little bit so that it's not quite so sort of stark against the craft card. I do need a little bit more out of there. So again, just down those edges. And this is usually more prominent when I'm doing a piece of white card on a white base card, because it lifts it from the background. But, you know, some people are happy with that lovely clean edge, but I just love this sort of distressed look with the ink. So mine always get tret to that little bit of ink. I just think it brings everything in. It gives it that sort of almost like a little glow. And we've got that at the ready. So we'll just give that a little wipe with the excess ink off there. We can get rid of that. Let's just move the sketch for a minute. And then this is where we've got to so far. So we've actually got a few little leaves left here that I can use. And I've also got some scraps left over from when I cut the backgrounds and things. So there was a little tiny sliver came off the copper, which I quite like. It's about 1/4 of an inch wide. This is what I cut off the background paper here. So I've got elements of that spare. So again, I could use some of this to create, you know, some extra. Now for me, that's just a little bit too wide. So what I'm going to do is just bring in my smaller guillotine here and just adjust this. And I've deliberately not prepared this to show you that thought process. So I'm going to cut this down a bit. I don't want it to be so wide. I'm going to take it down. Now my small guillotine is in metric. I nearly always work in inches, but this one's in metric. So I'm going to take it down to 1.5 centimeters. And I'm happy with this one as it is. So and what I'm going to do is bring some of this in at the bottom here. I don't need a lot of it. Now sometimes I fishtail the ends of it. Sometimes I will just literally, do I want that? No, I want that. Just take that to a point here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm just going to take it to a slight point on the edge just to finish that edge off. And all we're going to do is just a slight little tiny bit here and here. Just you can keep them at the same angle. I often stagger them like this. And then I'm going to treat these to that same ink so that it all looks as if it's been, you know, planned together. The same for this one. I'm just going to run it along the edge to take away that white edge on the pearl cardstock, which is a coated cardstock. And we're going to pop these in place. So just in order to get those straight, I'm just going to grab one of my T-square rulers there. I'm just going to pop a little bit of acrylic glue the back of here, and then decide roughly where I want this to go, where I want it to sit. And then I want it a little bit lower, yeah, probably about there. And then once I've got it down, I can just make sure that we're running nice and straight there. Yep, happy with that one. And once you've got one of them straight, the other one is going to go down naturally. So this is going to go stuck down to the card again with that acrylic glue. And I'm just going to make this one a little bit shorter. Pop that right up to the copper. Just give those a chance to dry, and then we're going to cut the edges off, and I will ink that last edge. And then as far as the leaves are concerned, I'm going to use the big one and possibly one of the smaller ones, I think, down here. And then this one I'm just going to offset so that we've got that angle going, quite like that. So first of all, we will pop this one down. So again, just a tiny little dab. That glue's never very far away when I'm sort of embellishing my cards. And I'm just going to pop that one in the top there. I'm going to pop these, and again I've been around the edges of these with the ink, so everything joins in. There's that theme through all the card. And again, this is how I sort of have a look at, you know, if I don't have any scraps left, then sometimes I'll go in the scrap box, or I just omit that level and add some of the embellishments. You know, you could have actually done one of the larger leaves in the corner if you didn't have any scraps of paper left. It could be that you've got stamps left over. It's like my set that I use for my greeting there, the Autumn Blessings. I could have stamped one of these in the corner, you know, sort of just trimmed it up like that. And then my little foxy that I had was from an old set of stamps from Lee Holland. Again, these were done by Crafter's Companion a while ago, and there's all sorts of little critters on here. I often have these coloured in just to add, and there's the stamps and the dies on there. So I just took him, the little fox, and he's the one that's actually on that that front piece there. So I think we've got that good at the ready. I do tend to use my larger scissors for snipping this down the edge. Turn it over, use the card as a guide, trim those off, and then I'm just very final bit to just make sure it all blends in nicely is just to ink up that edge so you can see where we're at there. And then lastly, I'm going to jump straight back to the all-purpose glue. And this is the one that we've just made here. I am going to put my insert in the sample purely because this is the one that I've added all the gems onto. But you can see here, we're virtually the same. We've just got that die cut bow versus the twine bow. And then, as I say, I've added the pearls onto this one. I just went through my stash and picked out some of the colours that matched what I'd been working on. And I am going to pop the insert in this one. So if we bring that sketch back, and then we'll get this stuck in. Excuse me. So again, all purpose, and this is just a piece of, I went for the cream cardstock for this one rather than the white because we've got that lovely cream tone on the front here. And then this one's just going to sit inside with that border around. And again, there's no sort of given rule as to how big this piece is. I usually try and leave a nice border around the edge here. So you can see we've got our finished design there. So just that thinking process for the insert. So I hope that was useful for those of you that have asked about it. So we'll just have a look at those together. So we've got our card blank, we've got our matte layers, which mine equated to 3 different layers. The rectangle on the back, like I said, it could be a solid panel. You know, you could have a nice folder that, especially if you're doing the autumn ones, you know, you might have a nice embossing folder. That panel could be an embossed panel. It doesn't have to have the decal edge. This was just my interpretation of that sketch that I've made. I've got those main 4 embellishments down the edge, my sentiment and my bow. So quite happy with that as a sketch. And then just to finish off, we've added that coordinating insert in there. I very rarely put a folded insert in my cards. I used to, when I first started card making, I used to use printer paper and cut them and fold them, but I like this. This suits what I craft, and I just like that one piece in there. It also helps to stabilize. If you've done a lot of work on the front, it helps to stabilize the card and stop it toppling over. Sometimes if you've got a lot of embellishments on the front and your card base is not a heavy cardstock, the cards used to topple over, so it gives a bit of stability to the back there. And again, that is my design for today. So bringing in a little bit of autumn. I haven't done autumn yet because I spent last month doing the Halloween makes. So I thought we'd go on to autumn blessings and we'll incorporate it with the sketch. So again, sorry it's a day late. It is the 2nd today, and I do normally launch this on the 1st, but I had the extra bonus video in this week for Halloween, so I've just bumped this on a day to the 2nd. So sketch number 4, November 24, and that's where we're at today. So if you've enjoyed that, please give it a thumbs up underneath the video there. And if you are new to the channel, I would love you to subscribe if you've enjoyed what I've done today. And I'll be back very soon with a new tutorial for you. So have some crafty fun today, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye now.